Alright, it is a Monday, 9:29 a.m., October the 25th, and I'll try to make this quick. IOUS I won't really be watching. It was just on my watch list from the other day. But if it does something clean, if any of the stocks on the other watch list looks like it's going to make a very clean morning panic bounce play, I'll consider it. GBHL, ideally a continuation, but I might not be able to do it. It's a possibility. I like BTZI because this one has news today that it's going to release some crazy Trump cryptocurrency, so maybe this thing can run, especially with DWAC running. I don't necessarily want to trade DWAC or DWACW, but I definitely want to watch them. It's just choppy listed stocks. And GBHL, let's see if we can have like a second day, although this first day was super sketchy. So at the moment I'm going to focus on morning panic bounce plays and maybe take a look at what BTZI does today, now that it's coming up with something that's pretty relevant to the recent runners with DWAC. Alright, it is 9:39. I just got in and out of a trade. I traded 50,000 shares, which was about a $500 position with IFXY. And I could have went actually a lot larger because my risk level was so close. In theory, I was in, I don't know if it was exactly 97. Let's take a look and see. It's a 486.75 divided by 50k. So that was alright, so I got in at 9 sub penny 97.35, so 97.35, and that was at 9:37, so 97.35. So right here was my entry. Morning panic bounce play. It's kind of sketchy price action, so that's really why I got out of it a bit earlier than what I could have held. But I probably could have traded a larger size, maybe 100,000 shares. I did have 100,000 shares at the order entry, but then I got rid of it. I went back to 50, but I could have went larger just because of the fact that I was in theory in at 98, risking 97 breaking. So I'm just risking one little piece, right? One little tick breaking, and there was a lot of people supporting at 97. There were a lot of people on the bid, so there was a possibility that it was going to actually hold 97. It's not just like there was two people there. One issue that we did have was that there was a lot of people on the ask with large size like this, but now we're having this on the bid. I did sell at 99, and that was almost 2 minutes later at 9:38, which was right here at 99. Somewhere around here is when I sold. That's crazy. That's pretty cool. I would have been happy to sell at VWAP, which would have been 1 cent. A little sketchy because it was a sub penny, but I think I could have traded 100,000 shares, and maybe I could have sold half of my position instead of my full position. But the price action was looking kind of sketchy. It is like a low volume stock, but I think the setup was there for what it was. That would have been kind of weird to sell into, but that's pretty cool. And I did make just a tiny $8 from it, just under 2%. Not necessarily the best. I was looking at IOUS. This one turned around. I don't mind missing this one, just because this one is a bit cursed. It has like ugly price action, and this one in particular did drop. It did look like it was trying to turn around here, and then it has that immediate spike towards VWAP, which I don't really like when a morning panic bounce play does that. So I just stopped looking at it. I never gave it any money, but that's pretty okay. That's a cursed looking chart right there. Yeah, this is a cursed looking chart, but it did make a move there. And again, I could have traded larger. I could have probably sold half under VWAP and then maybe hold the other half, just in case that it does something like this where it breaks past VWAP. Not necessarily this crazy, but something more gradual would have been nice. It looks like IOUS is trying to downtrend. Maybe if it makes like a double bottom, higher low, lower low, I might consider that, but I want it to look clean. It doesn't have the best daily chart either. CBMJ dropped a lot. I never considered it for a morning panic bounce play because it was only up one other day, and that one day it was up, it had a sketchy wick, so no interest there. This Trump stock, this one is uptrending. That's pretty cool. I don't think I was interested in it because I was focused on morning panic bounce plays, but it's nice to see that it did offer some kind of a morning spike. That might have been hard to trade, but it did do something. GBHL looks sketchy. That's all I have for right now. Yeah, this one's weird. Again, I have my entry here, right here at this 97.3 level, and then I sold at right at 99, I think 938. So right here, you know, because this one did do a quick spike towards VWAP, not necessarily the way ILUS was, because that's much worse here, but it did do a crazy move there. I guess there's plenty of opportunity to have sold at 1 penny. Anything higher than that would have been kind of hard. So yeah, despite the fact that it got that high, it would have been kind of hard for me to sell there. But yeah, that's one trade I have right now. I'll keep looking for more setups. I probably won't consider this for like a higher low or something like that, unless it wants to look clean. But at the moment, that's what I have. Alright, it is 10:17 and I want to make just a quick update. I was interested in this lower low, but the way it traded was kind of gross. It had another one of those really sketchy spikes, right, and then it just comes right back to the level it was previously. Sketchy wick down here at the bottom, so I never really got in this setup. And at best case, maybe I was in at, let's just say, 31 flat. It gets as high as 31.8, which, I mean, 31 to 32, that's like 3.2%, and that's best case selling at the highs here. More ideal would have been maybe I'd sell at 315, which is like horrendous in terms of you know, range. It looks nice pattern wise just looking at the chart, but you know, there isn't much range in a setup like this to really be profitable, especially considering how ugly and wicky it was. So I didn't take the trade. I also wasn't really there when it was trying to ultimately put up a higher low right here from this bottom. And yeah, I don't mind missing it because it just looked kind of gross. Although it looks clean, right? The range is not really that nice, and it was pretty wicky. You know, just some sketchy price action. And right before it had this downtrend, right, it had that like one last spike towards the top again, trying to, I don't know, scare some people into getting in. Who are just hesitant, and then they just get wrecked. There's nothing else that I'm truly looking at that I find really interesting, but I will keep looking. BTZI had this panic. I did not see that, but I don't know if I would have really have traded that. Probably not. I mean, when did it go green on it went right at its previous close, so that might have actually been a good setup. Trying to trade right here, not because it's moving now, but it had to drop all the way towards that, you know, green to red level, and it held. That would have been kind of cool. I just didn't see that one. I'll make an update later, but there's nothing that I'm truly interested in trading at the moment. Alright, it is 10:40 a.m. and I am back. I was actually super interested in this setup, even though it has like a sketchy, you know, day back here. I liked how this thing had this drop right here under VWAP, and then it had a spike, and then it had a drop, but it was higher than this one, and then it had a higher high, and then it dropped towards VWAP. I was interested in it right here at 96, but unfortunately for me, which is totally my fault, yesterday I ate like freaking 9 bags of Cheetos, flaming hot Cheetos, and some other spicy stuff, and dude, my stomach was just not having it. I literally had so much like freaking stomach pain. I can normally just handle it. Maybe I'm just getting older, or I just ate way too many spicy things yesterday, but I just had to freaking get out of my room and drink some soda and just feel a little better, and some water too. But you know, this thing was totally a setup that I could have tried. Now I might have sold in here, just being scared that it's gonna be a lower high from this level right here. But yeah, after it had that little drop right here, you can call this like a baby high or low. It looks like it's trying to break out of this range. I would be watching this super closely, and I might even consider selling even if it breaks out of this range later. But this would have been a very killer setup right here. Even with the tiny size, that would have been super profitable. Let's just see what would have been this if I bought at 96. And that would have been a $288 position, which was totally possible. And let's just say a sellout 108. Yeah, that would have been super profitable, like just under 40 bucks on the tiny size, playing off of that VWAP setup. Super nice. Totally my fault for eating way too many bags of spicy hot Cheetos and a bunch of other spicy things. Yeah, that was totally my fault there. IFXY came back under VWAP. There would have been some times to sell at 101, but again, this one, I mean, it doesn't trade that nicely. BTZI, nothing really that interesting here, although it was nice in that it did play off of this, 114 level, and that did get as high as here, but I'm going to guess a realistic sell would have been at 12.7. I guess that wasn't really the best range either. 11 to 12 is 9%, but it is very choppy. That's a pretty nice move. I could have traded this in theory if I didn't overdose on spicy hot Cheetos. Super nice setup. I hope I can be able to trade one of these. Not just mentally ready, but in this case also physically ready too. Alright, it is 10:56. I didn't really hold on to this trade that long, and it can still work out, but I don't like, getting in a trade. It gets a little higher than where you bought and then it fails. But this is the same setup I was talking about here when it was at 96 and it made that nice move to 109. A lot of range there for profits. And I tried again here because it is trying now to float off of VWAP, which is nice, so it is a higher low from here. But this is the first bottom, second, third, which was fine. The third one, the second one would have been more ideal, but nothing wrong with the third because it touches VWAP. It plays off of it very nicely. But I knew that when it got to this fourth one and I was going to consider trading it, I traded a smaller size because I knew it's less likely that it's going to work because it's just going on so many times. And on top of that, it's just not really high odds. So I went smaller, and it was also like the fourth one. This one actually, at least right now, is trying to hold this level. I was risking, in theory, 98 breaking if it were to have immediately failed right after I got in the trade, but I decided to sell while it was still at its highs because there was a huge seller at 104, and then there was like a 3 million share seller at 105, and just so many people were on the ask, selling with large size, and then the bid was trying to look strong. It was trying to regain itself and try to push it forward, but it just looked like it wasn't going to actually hold it. I would be cutting if I were to have been holding it, for whatever reason, if I didn't try to sell at its highs with those obvious sellers on the ask. I mean, it could have still have worked out. It can try to still maybe uptrend and try again at another level, a higher low setup, but excuse me, I tried my best there. It just didn't seem too ideal. I made a tiny amount, so in theory, it was just a small amount. I bought at 1054, and that was right here. This candle right here, 1054. I got executed at 102, which was a great price for me. Again, I'm trading a small, tiny, $100 position because I knew this thing wasn't as ideal as it would have been here or here. So I traded accordingly, and then I sold about 2 minutes later, 1056 and 103. Actually, right before it fell off. But it can try again, and in theory, I have that rule where I can't trade the same setup in the same range more than once. But this is technically a new range, but it could totally try to do something later. This is going to be the level to break 109. That's been resistance the entire day, as well as the opening price, it seems like. So, well, not the opening, the close actually at 9:30, but yeah, this thing can totally try to regain itself as long as it's still playing off of this level here higher. Ideally, it's still a higher low, not like a double bottom, and it can try to make a nice move. It can totally do something here, but I'll just watch it. It probably is gonna work, but I just don't want to be like what I was doing with DWAC, just trying the same setup 5 times. So let's just see if it works here. You know, if anything, I was on the right track, but this could totally be the next higher low from here. You know, and this one just failed, right? But this one touches VWAP and it's still higher than here, so this thing can't continue the uptrend in theory. Let's see. We have 101 at the ask. We have a big seller at 102. So there are still big sellers on the ask, so for it to move, people are going to have to buy up those sellers, which is totally possible. Maybe this one volume candle is throwing off my chart and it's not actually letting me see, you know, how many shares people trade. It can try something, but again, it's just less likely the more higher lows it has. But in theory, this could be it. This could be the nice run. There is a lot of people on the ask once again, just like it was back here, but it could still try to do something. Alright, it is 11:43 and this setup absolutely failed. Now it's at 87. I'm so happy that I learned from that garbage trading I did Friday, where I kept trying on what was it, DW, ACW, the same stupid setup 3 times. I should have just tried it once. If it works later, and I just wasn't in at the right moment when it did it, too bad. But this was clearly an example of the same thing. You know, if I kept trying to do the same dumb setup, although this one would have been kind of hard for me to consider because it was kind of downtrending. Really happy that I only tried it once, and I did even sell that for a slight profit. Maybe I'm up just under $10 today. You know, I could have tried ILUS, but you know, that didn't really trade that nicely, and I could have actually been in for GBHL and this one right here, but my freaking stomach was just not in a good mood. But that was a setup there. As for BTZI, the volume isn't really there, but it is trying to uptrend. Besides that setup here, there's nothing else I would have done with it, and it doesn't again trade the nice, you know, consistent volume. It just looks a bit iffy. CBMJ, nothing. Yeah, that's really all I have for these. I'm going to be looking to see if there's any other setups that I'm missing, any other stocks that are moving nicely on the day, but for what I see right now, this is about it. I guess CYBL is trying to come back, but I don't like that one. And I can't trade that one anymore because that's an E-Trade stock unless Schwab updated their stuff. So it's better for me not to trade it anyway. Yeah, it's midday. I might make an update later in the afternoon or when the markets close, but this might be all I have for today. Who knows? Alright, it is 5:28 p.m. and I am here to call it off. I had 2 trades and I'm pretty happy with GBHL because I only tried to set up once because it was ultimately something that it didn't work. You know, eventually it did not work out. 2 trades. One was IFXY, and this one, sure, I could have sold a bit better, but it was kind of sketchy. I mean, it held 1 cent for a super long time. I guess you could have called this the higher low, but the problem is that the whole thing was just crappy the way it traded, just very jumpy. I could have, however, traded a larger size. I could have traded $1,000 position size, just because of the fact at the time, my entry at 97,937. Let's get rid of extended hours so it looks nicer. 937 right here, right after I had that little wick down and it tried to catch itself. I was in at 97, literally right here at that bottom of that wick. You know, it was such a nice entry because I was so close to my risk level that I could have went even larger. I could have traded $1,000 position in this case because of how close I was to the risk level again, and there was a big wall of bidders at that risk level, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm so close to my risk level, let's, you know, trade accordingly, and then it immediately breaks the risk level. No, there was a big, you know, wall of bidders. It would have given me plenty of time to get out, at least in theory, right, before it would actually break if it were to have happened, which in this case it didn't. It did turn around. I sold at 99, right about here. I could have done better with my sell. Maybe I could have tried to play games with this, you know, and try to sell at the ask or something. But, you know, I was able to sell eventually at 1 cents very easily, because that was at the bid for a super long time. And again, a higher low here, but you know, again, it was choppy, but I guess it did make a move. I mean, you buy at 1 cent, and I mean, well, you could have sold at 102 pretty easily, I think. Maybe actually not, because this was probably the ask for a super long time. But that was a setup there. And for GBHL, again, I'm super happy that I tried once and only once. My entry was 1054 right here, and then I sold not too much later, 1056, before it actually downtraded, just because there was so many people at the ask. The bid was being taken out at 103. I figured, you know, it could still work, but I just don't like how there are still so many sellers. You know, I guess maybe this would have been more ideal, sure, but again, it didn't really work out that nicely. It's a bit choppy too, but it did offer a move, but definitely not when I was trying it. And I'm glad that, you know, I wasn't trying 16 times trying to nail it here, which didn't offer that much opportunity. It didn't make like a higher high, or at least it didn't even get to this level and make a triple top. It only got to this 102 level, or if you want to count the wick, 104. You know, the setup wasn't really that good anymore. And you know, if I didn't overdose overdose on spicy Cheetos, I probably would have been there. Dude, my stomach was going through such an excruciating amount of pain that I couldn't like concentrate. I had to go get something to drink because it was just freaking crazy, and I just ate way too many bags of Cheetos, spicy Cheetos. So yeah, and I think CYBL was an uptrending stock. It did try to do a reversal, maybe higher low setup, but it wasn't really nice because I didn't like how it didn't play off of VWAP as nicely. But this was definitely a mover. You know, I in theory could have traded this, but the range isn't that nice either. I mean, it's not horrible. It's better than this freaky thing here with IFXY, but you know, this was a nice move. I'm not able to trade this on Schwab, so it didn't really matter because the price action wasn't as nice as I would like it to be. It wasn't anything like GBHL. Super nice back there. CBMJ faded off. No interest in trading it. It was just there from Friday, really. No interest in it. ILUS, I was interested in it a little bit here. It did turn around, sure, but I don't like the way it is, especially on that daily chart. BTZI did do well with that Trump news. You know, if I was there at that moment, I might have considered that buy right there once again. And as for DWAC, let's take a look. It looks crazy. It did do a inverse head and shoulders here. That actually worked around the same time period. It even put up a higher low. I wonder if that was the same for the warrant version. Looks like my crazy things are still here. No, I didn't actually do something like that there. I probably wouldn't have traded it. One, because it's DWAC, which is a higher priced stock. And two, I learned not to really trade after 2 p.m. But this one did it, you know, shoulder had shoulders. I was really wanting something like that on Friday, but it was way too choppy. That's all I have. You know, none of the setups were really ideal, except for that one once again with GBHL, that higher low off of VWAP thing. Super nice there. Maybe I'll be able to tackle that in the future. Not really that bad. I'm happy I didn't try, you know, a whole bunch of times here and get chopped out. Overall, pretty good. Let's try to continue this momentum. Pretty good day once again. Thankful for God, and I look forward to tomorrow, and maybe I can try these setups again.